So, gospel musician Solemuholo was on the Venting podcast with Gogo Skhotheni yesterday. I thought it was quite an interesting one. She also asked him also for his viewership, for his views on whether Christians and Bazayoni and all these things and all these different faiths should be in one and stuff like that. And also, Solemuholo did state his part. And I want to talk about that, but mostly I want to talk about it because although we are having this conversation, in part number 1, I spoke about the spiritualist and Sangoma from Ghana by the name of Hajaguraja, who made a comment on TB Joshua. And on that, I was talking about a certain verse that I want us to actually give an ear to. This is the verse right here. If you guys remember, I quoted 2 Corinthians chapter number 6. We're going to go back inside there and actually talk about that particular verse. In this video, I'm going to focus more on the verse than on the particular side of the spiritualist and also Gogo Skhotheni and Solemuholo over there. I thought that was going to be an interesting one to bundle them up so that we can see the full picture of why light and darkness just don't meet. I thought this was a perfect one to do that. It's Tricks Reality Show. We do daily Christian commentary videos. If it's the first time over here, do be sure to check out some other videos that are down in the pinned comments, and I'm going to check you out over there. So you're asking yourself, what does the verse say? And if you go down there, you will notice that the verse starts by saying, "O ye Corinthians, our mouth is open unto you, our heart is enlarged." Then when he later on goes further, our hearts are enlarged. It means that we're very accommodative of where you are and so forth, but we have a desire that you guys would know the truth. And so if our heart is enlarged towards you, then if you read further in verse number 13, it says, "Now for a recompense in the same." So you guys start thinking about doing the same for us. We are giving ourselves for you guys to hear the truth. Do the same for us. He says it like this. He says, "I speak unto you, my children, be ye also enlarged." That idea, if you actually go back into, if you take that verse, I want to show you just a comparison for those that might want to see it in a lighter version, not King James. I prefer reading the King James. Né? And so if you go into comparing the verses and stuff like that, you'll see the verses that actually do come up. For example, the Amplified there, it does explain it a little bit more. If you are not understanding now, I recompense in like kind, I speak unto you, my children, be ye also enlarged. So also expand your love towards us. He is saying it in that manner. Now, if we go back there, after he says that, he then says, if you are going to be of such a mind, if you have considered that you're going to extend your love towards us, remember the story is still what? The story is still Solemuholo being interviewed by Gogo Skhotheni. We're not against people talking to people who are not believers and so forth, but we caution, mind your tone towards the gospel. Right. He says, when you go further down there, I don't know why this camera keeps adjusting light on this one. I might have to deal with that later on. All right. He says, verse 14, "Be ye not equally yoked together with unbelievers." Now, this is not saying don't talk to them, okay? No. It's saying do not be equally yoked. Now, why do I bring up this verse? In the podcast, Gogo Skhotheni asks Solemuholo, do you think Christians and unbelievers and Sangomas can be in the same pot? And his answer was, yes, we are all children of God. Now, that's where it creates a message of confusion. I've said this about other gospel musicians. It's not that we shouldn't talk to people who are not believers. It doesn't mean that do not have a conversation with them. notice that in the verse, he actually makes a certain emphasis. Let's go back down there. He puts up two particular points here. Fellowship and communion over there. Fellowship and communion. So, number one, he says, do not be equally yoked. What fellowship has light with, what fellowship has righteousness with unrighteousness? Notice, a Sangoma dabbles in the space of dealing with darkness and light. They are not choosing light. They are choosing to dwell in the middle. They don't want to. They want to influence good earthly in the earthly nature. And they're going to do that by using darkness. So, fellowship. So, I'm bringing this particular subject. In the first episode, I highlighted the verse. But on this one, I wanted to explain. You see, they are influencing good in the physical nature. So they will draw spirits in order to influence luck or something like that, or to kind of gain an urge in a certain space or in a certain area to influence their luck in this physical earth. And they will do so by drawing from darkness. So they influence the physical life by drawing spiritual beings, or jinns as the Arabs would know them, to draw luck. So they use darkness. So that's why in that particular verse, if you note it there, he uses this particular reference of fellowship. Why does he use the word fellowship? Because you are marrying. The Chinese know this particular thing as the yin and the yang. They marrying. We're not saying don't talk, but be very clear on the truth that you stand on based on what they believe or contrary to what they believe. When you say, can they be in the same room? They can be in the same room. But the question, or the core root of where that question comes from, is to say, can they be of the same acknowledge? Are they acknowledging the same truth? And the truth is that no. If we imply that they are, we create a problem, because that's what he's warning against. He says, be ye not equally yoked with unbelievers, because there is no fellowship with unrighteousness. Mingling light and darkness, taking from the darkness to influence the physical world, to claim that unto good, it's a big problem. And so he then says, when he goes further, note this verse right here, right? So he's dealt with that. And he says, what communion has light with darkness? Remember, they are dealing, Abangoma, Sangomas and so forth, spiritualists and all these people. What they are doing is they delve themselves in light and darkness. They are delving themselves or bringing themselves into using darkness to influence physical life. No? So, he then says, what communion? So if you are using darkness, you're drawing darkness, dark spirits, gupus and whatnot, all this julile stuff. I always laugh when someone says, hey, julile. I always laugh. Because what is happening is that they are using the yin and the yang. That's not how God wants us to function. And so he warns against that. He says, there is no communication. There ought to be no communication with light and darkness. Then look at verse number 15, which is what I want to go to. He says, what condom has Christ with Belial? What part has the believer with the one who is an infidel, right? The person who doesn't believe. Now, the verse that is very key, this one right here. Sangomas have their own temple in Dumba, a shrine. But notice here he brings to light. What agreement has the temple of God with idols? When we now saying ancestors are giving gifts, they are giving blessings, they are doing what? We are raising idols to the status of God. He says, what relationship has this thing to do with idols, with God. He says, for ye are of the temple of the living God. Not dead people. No. And God has said, I will dwell in them and walk in them. Notice that walking is very important, okay? How a believer should portray himself. And I will be their God, and they will be my people. Notice, I will be their God. I am not there to be calling the God of so-and-so, because I don't know who the God of so-and-so is. So, this tells you what is being done when we compromise, when we bring a compromise to the subject of whether Sangoma's work can dwell in the same pot with Christian doctrine. Because you are saying there is communicatable. It's English. There is what is communicated from Bungoma that translates itself into biblical narrative, the biblical narrative. You are marrying communion. You see that part of the verse. You are creating communion between light and darkness. You are creating it. Not that it's there. You are the one who's creating it. But let's be very careful to dwell in the light. We are people of the light. We dwell in the light. Let's not muddy ourselves with things we know not or things we know nothing of. Okay? So this video, I'm bringing this up because, Solomon answered it the way he knows it and stuff like that. He says, yes, we're all children of God. No. The term children of God means something. Okay? And if you go to John chapter number 1, it tells you what that particular term means. Okay? When you bring up the subject of we are all children of God, there is a particular meaning to that. Verse number 12 of 1 John chapter number 1. For as many as have received him, to them, okay, now, let's go back here. Frame you up properly. To as many as received him, to them he gave the power to become the sons of God, even to them that believed on his name. Okay? He gave the power. This takes power. Okay? Which is born not of blood. So it is not my relationships within the flesh here. He says, who is born not of blood, but, okay, nor of the will of man, but of God. So when you say a person is a child of God, you are saying they are born not because they are just born in the flesh, or because they are created by God. It is receiving him. Notice there, okay? To as many as received him, he gave them the power to become the sons of God. So when Gogo Skhotheni asked the question, and Solomon Hulu's answer is, oh yes, we are all the children of God. No, sir. The term children of God means something. And this verse here shows you what that particular point means. When you say someone is a child of God, you are saying they have received Jesus. So if a person has not received Jesus, and receiving Jesus, as we have shown, there is no relationship with darkness. I do not equate God with yin and the yang, delving into spirits in order to find pleasure in this life or please myself in this life while dishonoring the relationship I have with him from a spirit by drawing dark spirits into my life, by drawing ipogo and all these things that Sangomas get involved in. So no, we are not all children of God. We are not, because I cannot marry, I cannot blend the yin and the yang. I cannot blend light and darkness. I cannot blend the white and the black. By that I don't mean race, I mean color. Ne? That's why when you go to the Masonic temple, they put checkered floors. That's where you are walking. You will notice that that is actually what he points out in the previous verse in Corinthians. In Corinthians, he points out this is where you walk. When it comes to where you walk, wait, let me go back there. Okay, this is where you walk. This is what he makes a mention of, because we ought to be very clear about this. Okay, so remember this verse right here, highlighted there. He says, what agreement has the temple of God with idols? Ye are here the temple of God. God has said unto you, I will dwell in them and walk in them. He walks in them. So when you say children of God, you're saying someone who has received Jesus, someone who has acknowledged that light and darkness does not meet. It's him I need. He is my, that's why he says he is the light of the world. So that question, when Solomon answered it, I wanted to clarify why, when he said we are all children of God, so we can just no. The term children of God means something. We must acknowledge it so that those that are unbelievers might understand it. Our goal is that people will hear the gospel. It's not that we just friends, we high five each other. No, we must all understand, what does it mean to be a child of God? It means you have received him, according to that particular verse we read in John chapter number 1. It's the Reality Show. We do daily Christian commentary videos. If it's the first time over here, do be sure to check out the other videos that are down in the pinned comments, and I'm going to check you out on the later on. Let's not blend so that it becomes clear what the truth is.